What is going on, guys and girls? Welcome to the channel. In this video, we are going to discuss working agreements and how they can help you in your Scrum Master interview or at your Scrum Master job. This is part one of this video. In the next video, we'll show you a template that entails how to create a working agreement, how to use it in your teams, and we will also go over some Scrum Master interview questions about a working agreement in the next part of this series. Let's start by talking about what is a working agreement. So basically, a working agreement is a document, informal document that you create that entails how the behavior with different team members between different parties will go. For example, let's say you create a working agreement for your product owner. How do you want the relationship between you and your product owner to go? That you will write it down in a working agreement, and that document is called a working agreement. This document is super important because it's a very proactive step that a scrum master or team or anyone takes to kind of reduce conflict, kind of reduce misunderstanding, reduce any vagueness. It's just like a definition, it's just like a kind of like a acceptance criteria definition of done for a user story. It's very similar to that because it removes any vagueness from the relationship of what to expect and what not to expect. It sets the bar high for the conversations to happen during the project, during the sprint. It sets the bar at a certain threshold, and below that it cannot nothing can happen because we already discussed and we already agreed on certain things when we started the project. Okay, so that is what a working agreement is. It's basically a formal informal document that you create for your peers, for your team members, with your team, with the technical team, with the scrum, with the product owner, with business analyst, with the even the stakeholders depending on the contract. That kind of describes the goal uh, of the sprint, the goal of the sprint, and what to expect and what not to expect from the team and from you while we are working together. That's what a working agreement is. Now, why do we need a working agreement? We need a working agreement because if we do not have a working agreement, people will not know what to expect from you, or you will not have a clear expectation from anyone else because uh, people will do what they want. For example, let's say if you don't have a working agreement with the product owner. Now the product owner can bring in work items in the middle of the sprint and just add them to the sprint because you never communicated before in form of a working agreement or in form of a discussion what to expect from you as a behavior and what you can expect from the product owner as a behavior. So having that conversation early on will already set the bar high, and that's why you need a working agreement. It is also important because it reduces conflict within the team. It reduces conflict because in the beginning, when you build a working agreement, you communicate with the team that how to reduce conflict, how to resolve conflict, and no personal attacks on each other during the retrospectives and things like that. You can lay them out during the in the working agreement, which then become the benchmark for conversations going forward. And if people disagree over something, you can always bring up the working agreement and show it to the team members. Hey, this is what we agreed on. So that's also why a working agreement is important. It also fosters collaboration and transparency, which are very important in Agile. So how it fosters collaboration and transparency is because when you are building a working agreement for the technical team, it gives an opportunity to the technical team to come together, kind of make changes to it when we are initially having the discussion. And it's recommended to have the discussion every month or every 2 months to kind of reshuffle the things on the working agreement with the agreement from the technical team and kind of go over it and remind the team again what we discussed. So it makes it more collaborative for the team to come together and set a rule of principles or a rule of guidelines that they will follow during the project. So that is also why a working agreement is super critical. It also enhances transparency because when you create a working agreement, make sure to put it in Confluence in a place where it's very visible and it can be accessed by everyone. Or if you are using Azure DevOps or any other tool, make sure to place it in a place where it's visible and it's very accessible, and make sure that the team knows where you place the working agreement so that they can go and access it, right? So that increases transparency as well. And when you are collaborating, you're kind of setting the guidelines with everyone and the whole team is there. So it kind of increases that transparency that way as well because the team can know what to expect from each other during the process, right? So it's a very powerful tool to manage people, to manage the process, and to manage the product. So it gives you power to manage all three with a single document. If you ask, if you ask me what is the most important thing for a Scrum Master when he's starting out, I would say the most powerful and the most important thing is a working agreement, because a working agreement will kind of make the team respect you more, because you already lay the guidelines, you already lay the framework on how to operate in going forward, and then that will keep the boundaries clear, and that will help you reduce conflict, that will help you increase transparency, that will help you manage your deadlines better, and that will help you also manage the workload better. So it's a very powerful tool to manage people, process, as well as product. So that's why we need a working agreement. Now the next question is when to create a working agreement. Generally it's recommended to create a working agreement at the start of the project, but you can also create a working agreement in the middle of the project if you really want to, and kind of lay the guidelines there and kind of go over it every month with the team, sit down with the team after the retrospective or things like that, go over with it and make some changes to it with an approval from the team. So that is all about that. Now, how to frame a working agreement, short and to point, right? So the way you frame a working agreement is you kind of make it completely to the point and keep it short. Okay, keep it very short and keep it to the point. And on top you can say this is the goal of the working agreement. For example, let me show you what a sample working agreement looks like. So this is a working agreement template. So as you can see on the top, it says goal of the working agreement. So this is the goal of the working agreement. On the top you can mention, we will have mutual respect, and we will have expectation management through this working agreement. We will drive an understanding of agile mindset and scrum process to reach our goals through this working agreement. We will have a shared responsibility. We will have openness and collaboration. We will have transparency. We will have positive behavior and conflict management, and new team ground frameworks and norms. So those are the goals of this working agreement, right? That's how you can highlight the goals of the working agreement in the beginning. And then this is a sample working agreement, right, for a sprint. POC for a sprint execution. For example, product owner should be available for the team's clarification. You can mention that in the working agreement. Hey, when we are working on a sprint, the product owner has to be available so that the team can clarify. And you can go even further to say that he has to be available from this time to this time, right? Ask for help without hesitation. The team has to be able to ask for help without hesitation, and you have to create that kind of collaborative and fun environment, and that will also be a kind of a goal for the sprint, right? Update Jira board daily before stand-up meeting, and that will also be one of the rules of the working agreement. And you kind of get an approval from the team, they understand it, they agree to it, and once they understand and agree to it, then you can kind of make things happen that way. Adhere to coding standard. You can sit down with a technical team and kind of make sure they understand it and they agree to it. Check in the code daily. That is also very important. You can sit down with the technical team and make sure they understand that. Ensure that definition of done is followed for all stories. Yeah, so that there is no vagueness. You write the user stories properly, the team understands the user stories, and it helps improve the velocity of the team over time, right? So ensure the definition of done is followed for all stories. So this is how you will create a working agreement. On the top of the working agreement, you will write the goals. This is why I'm creating this working agreement: to foster collaboration, to foster transparency, openness, positive behavior, conflict management, new team ground frameworks and norms, mutual respect, expectation management, conflict resolution. These are all the goals of the working agreement. And then this is a sample working agreement, right? We expect this during this sprint, we expect this during this during this before the stand up, right? These are the rules you can lay down in the working agreement. You can also lay down the rules like in the working agreement related to meetings, right? Hey, be on time for the meeting. We expect you to be on time for the meeting. If you come late, there might be repercussions. Someone has to do something, someone has to give $5 to someone if they are late, and things like that, right? You can have those things laid out in the working agreement. Make sure the team understands that. Don't be afraid to highlight the impediments. Don't be afraid to highlight, if the team is facing any impediments or blockers, make sure you highlight them. Be transparent. Focus on the meeting without distraction. So when you are remote, this becomes very, very important. You can have something in there like, okay, have your video camera on, based on the team and based on the environment in the team, have your video camera on, and different things like that. Or don't use your phone during the meeting, listen actively, do not interrupt anyone, be available from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Decide on meeting times, and you can discuss with the technical team and make sure they understand and agree to it, as well as a product owner agrees to it. Then once you have a yes from your team on all these points and you have made changes according to the team's suggestion, then you go ahead and you push, you kind of make sure the whole team agrees on it. One other way you can do it is you can kind of create a checklist here. You can create this document in Google Doc and create a checklist here, and if you want that document, you can click on the link down below and reach out to me, and I'll be happy to share that with you. You can create a checklist here, and with the names of the people in the team, and every person that agrees, just click agreed, agreed, agreed on the checklist under their name, whichever principle they agree to, right? So that's also you can do, so that to make sure that you have a kind of vote from everyone on each and every point in the working agreement. And if four people agree out of five, that's a majority, right? So that's how you frame this. And then this is a sample working agreement with the product owner. You can create, hey, working with the Scrum Master in the Scrum empirical process. So kind of when you are trying to follow the sprint process, when you're trying to follow the daily stand up and the Scrum empirical process on a whole, you're trying to do sprint demos and things like that. Make sure that the product owner is ready to work with you, he understands what you're trying to do, and he's ready to be willing to follow the process and kind of help you out along with the process, right? Manage capacity with the help of a Scrum Master, right? So the team only has so many hours, and when a product owner is assigning work to the team members, he has to work with the Scrum Master to make sure that they don't over assign the work or they don't under assign the work, things like that, right? So kind of manage that capacity with the help of a Scrum Master. Respect the boundaries and timelines of sprint and sprint ceremony. So work with the product owner to kind of so that make sure that there is no scope creep happening during the sprint, or there is no new work coming in, the new high priority items come in. Then have that kind of conversation that we might take something out and we might place the high priority item inside the sprint, but have that conversation and make sure you have clarity on all sides on the rules, right? Manage and reduce scope creep in the middle of a working sprint. Yeah, we discussed, right? So have that discussion in the beginning of the sprint that if you are bringing in anything new during the sprint, we will remove something that is less priority and place that which is high priority. And it can only happen a number of times, unless it's super high priority, then you might switch things around a little bit. But scope creep should be limited, and it's only should be when it's super important for the business or for the MVP, right? Manage backlog health and team backlog. So you need to have that understanding with the product owner as well, that they will be managing the backlog, they will be working with you to kind of have proper priority with user stories, and kind of have properly defined user stories, as well as have whatever your expectations are from the product owner. Have proper user stories, or have a proper backlog with the properly prioritized stories, and properly defined and a healthy backlog for the next 6 months or 3 months, whatever your cycle is, and whatever you feel like is better for your team. I generally suggest 3 months is a great time. At least have 3 months of backlog items in your backlog, but if not, at least for the next 4 sprints. At least have enough items in your backlog for the next 4 sprints, and make sure you communicate that with the product owner and they understand that, and then you can work together on having that for your team. Work as a partner with Scrum Master to ensure team predictability. Predictability is basically, let's say if the team is working on a certain number of story points this week, you as a Scrum Master, you should be able to predict that they will be finishing that many story points next week, they will be finishing that many story points the week after, unless unexplained situations happen. Then you need to have that predictability within your team, right? You need to have that predictability so that the budget can be kind of laid out in that way, and the budget can be managed in that way, and the stakeholders can have clear expectations on what they can expect and when they can expect, right? So have the team predictability, have team sustainability. Team sustainability is basically when more people are staying in the team and they are not leaving the organization every other week, new people are coming in every other week. That's not happening. The team is there, it's solid, they're working together with each other very well, there are not many conflicts, they are very they are very motivated to work towards a common goal, which is a sprint goal or whatever. the project goal is. So that is what team sustainability is, right? And maximum business value. So the main goal at the end of the day for everyone, for the Scrum Master, the product owner, the technical team, everyone is to deliver maximum business value to the business in the shortest amount of time and deliver the best product possible in the shortest amount of time. Right, and with the least amount of headaches, with the least amount of, with as efficiently as possible, right? Budget wise, money wise, as efficiently as possible. And I mentioned money many times in my videos because I have worked in a startup, and in startups money can sometimes be tight, so you have to be very efficient with things as a project manager, a scrum master, right? So as a scrum master you have to ensure that your team is delivering the maximum amount of business value in the shortest amount of time and delivering the best product possible. So that is also that you need to have an understanding with the product owner that the main goal is, if a conflict happens between you and the product owner, or some disagreement happen over some story or something like that, you need to have this understanding that at the end of the day we are all working to create maximum business value in the shortest amount of time, and that is the main goal, and that is what we are working towards. That will reduce or even finish the conflict, and make sure, and that will make sure that you guys are focused on the goal and not on the everyday little minor things, and focus on the bigger picture. So those are some of the things that a working agreement entails, right? It will give you a lot of comfort, it will give you a lot of peace of mind in the beginning of the project, to kind of lay the frameworks, to have that mutual respect and expectation management, to have the to have the to have kind of like a boundary, to have kind of like a baseline below which we cannot fall. Okay, we cannot be late to the meetings, we cannot be distracted during the meetings. And in remote world a working agreement becomes very very important, because in remote world expectations are not some if expectations are not communicated properly with the team members, people might take things lightly. And and those when people start taking things lightly, it might affect the whole project, it might affect the whole process, and it might affect the product. And that is not very good, that is always bad. So make sure that the expectations are clear with everyone, whether it's your stakeholder, whether it's the team members, whether it's product owner, business analyst, whoever it is. Always sit down, draft a working agreement, set up a meeting with the people, explain to them what a working agreement is, explain to them why we need a working agreement, and then go over the working agreement and make sure everybody agrees to it. And that's why I said have a Google Doc where you have these right here, and then you have a name of every team member like this laid out, and then under that name you can write whoever agrees, write agreed, whoever disagrees, write disagrees, and then write a reason for it. And make sure you have the discussion with the team member, whether one-on-one or in a team setting, to kind of understand why they disagree to certain principles, right? And based on that you can create these working agreement and make sure they are implemented in the team, and make sure that the team the conflict is reduced and the team functions smoothly and functions in a very productive way. So it's a very powerful tool to manage people, process, and product. PPP. Discuss and change if needed. So yeah, make sure that you change your working agreement every 2 weeks, or every month, or every 3 weeks, or every 2 months, whatever is more comfortable for you. I suggest setting up a separate meeting, a working agreement meeting. But if that's not possible in your particular environment, bring it up during the retrospective. Have 15 minutes set aside in the retrospective to go over the working agreement. If there are any changes that need to be made, make sure you make those changes. Okay, keep the working agreement very short and to point, just like we showed right here. In the beginning you will write goal of the working agreement, and then you will write the points of the working agreement, and that's all. Okay, and we keep it very short and to the point, and make sure it's transparent to everyone. Create it during the sprint or before the sprint, recommended before the sprint, before any start of any project, before you do anything. Make sure you have a working agreement. Okay, we discussed why do we need a working agreement. We need a working agreement to make sure transparency, openness, collaboration. Make sure we lay a framework of a set of frameworks for our behavior to reduce conflict, improve predictability, improve sustainability within the team, to make sure we deliver the maximum amount of value in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of conflict. That's why we need a working agreement, right? What is a working agreement? A working agreement is a document that you create that entails the behaviors that the people can expect from you, or you can expect from the team going forward, which makes the whole process smooth and gives you a lot of respect within the team, and gives you and sets kind of a baseline around behavior, and reduces a lot of conflict going down the line, and kind of helps you in your position as a scrum master, and helps you build better relationships, whoever it is, whether it is a team or the product owner. So it's a very powerful document. It's a very important document to manage, to improve and manage the people, to improve and manage the process, and improve and manage the product. So that's what a working agreement is. In the next video, we'll go over some questions that can be asked in an interview that can be related to a working agreement, and we will make sure that we cover that part as well for you guys, for the interview preparing people. And so that's what a working agreement is. If you guys need any help with any consultation, if you guys are looking for a job as a scrum master, a product owner, or an agile coach, go click on the link down below and set up a one-on-one consultation with me. That consultation will cover the job prep, the resume prep, the LinkedIn profile prep, and I will give you ways to find jobs that other competitors, people who are looking for jobs, might not be doing. I will give you those techniques that you can do, and then I will also help you with the interviews. If you're going for an interview tomorrow, I'll give you some suggestions, what you can do, what you cannot do, how to crack the interview, and also I will give you help on the job. When you're working, when you get the job, I will help you on the job for 1 month for free. I will won't charge anything for 1 month. So when you get a job, I will make sure that you do everything right. Make sure you go do the right things. Make sure you follow the process, and make sure you become a great Scrum Master or a product owner. So go click on that link down below. It's a very cheap way to become successful, get the job, and kind of become a better Scrum Master at your job. So click on the link right below, make that small investment in yourself, and like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and happy holidays.